So what I'm going to talk about this evening is silent treatment. I briefly mentioned it in my group this week, actually, about silent treatment being a form of abuse. And it's not just sort of, every day if someone doesn't speak to you, well, they're abusing you. There are really specific traits of that. And I'm going to go through 7 aspects of this evening for you, just so you can get an understanding. So why maybe the narcissist does it, things that maybe you can do. Because some of you listening in, I know, will still be in a relationship with a narcissist and you're wondering how to get out, and you'll be able to relate to some of this. Some of you that are out, I always believe, hi Michelle, evening, I always believe knowledge is power with things like this, but only if we do something about it. Because I see so often so many people researching narcissists and looking at this and looking at that, and they become almost experts in it, but they don't do anything with that information. And actually, finding out all about narcissists can sometimes make you feel worse initially if you then don't do anything about it. So it's really important to recognise and feel those emotions, but then we need to deal with them and move forward. And that's really, really important, because otherwise, and a lot of studies have shown that when you go to counsellors and therapy and you're just rehashing all of that all of the time, it can actually keep you stuck. So it's really important to then learn strategies and tools of how you can move out of that as well. You don't want to just keep staying stuck. Because if you're staying stuck, like I did 8 years ago when I came out of my marriage, and I'd obviously got narcissistic abuse syndrome, all of those things that I've spoken about in other videos, and I won't go over them this evening, but a lot of those, I clung onto my anger, and then I started to research and learn everything about a narcissist and this and that, and became an expert in what narcissism was, but I wasn't moving forward from it. And I don't know whether any of you can relate to that. I love the fact you're all tuning in and watching these videos. I love the fact in my group we engage, but I don't want you to just stay there. You've got to do something with that information. You've got to do something with that knowledge for you to keep moving forward. Otherwise, it's just going to be going around in your head and you're going to stay stuck. And sometimes you feel even worse, because if you're using that knowledge, you think, why did that happen to me? How did I allow that to happen to me? And then you end up staying stuck. So really, please make sure you do something with that. Whether that be then start to really build up your positivity by watching YouTube videos, buying, positive books, getting a coach like myself to really help shift you quickly moving forward, anything like that, because it's really, really important that you don't stay stuck where you are. One of the first things with regards silent treatment with a narcissist. So let's just say you've had an argument. And I talk a lot about this in relationship scenarios, but actually it can be the same from family perspective, friends, work colleagues, because it isn't just a partner that can be a narcissist. Obviously, they will have and communicate with other people as well. And as I've said in other videos, I've really realised over the years, whilst I've studied all of this, is that probably a lot of I can think of 2 main best friends that I attracted probably from my late teens were really, really narcissistic, because I'm a highly sensitive empath, so I was attracting those into my life. And then obviously I attracted my ex-husband into my life, and he was a narcissist, so I'm an empath, and they go together, never going to end well. So the first thing I want to talk about is when you end up maybe having an argument, or maybe you're asking the narcissist something and you're engaging with them, if they then go into the silent treatment mode, it's because you have hit a nerve. You have said something that they've triggered in themselves. They've recognized something in themselves with that. So you've hit a nerve with them. They don't know how to process that and communicate that with you. And that goes on to the next one as well. They have this lack of communication skills of what they can then verbally say to you. So you've hit a nerve in an argument. Maybe you've had this, hi Rachel, and you're talking to them, and whatever it is that you had said, they then don't want to carry on having that conversation. Now, in a normal, healthy relationship, you potentially could still have an argument, you would communicate with them, and you would be able to have a healthy discussion, whether or not it was an argument or not. Because you've hit a nerve with a narcissist, they'll shut down. They won't carry on speaking to you, and then they will literally, I can think of many, many times, I don't know whether you can relate to this, when you're having an argument, being an empath, I like everything to be resolved. I don't like waiting. I want it to all go back to being okay again. So I remember with my ex-husband, if we ever had an argument, and then he would go silent on me, I'd be still chipping away. Oh, can we just talk about this? Can we do this? Can we do, and I'd keep on wanting to do it. And what I was doing was I was fueling his power and control over me by consistently trying to sort of break the silent treatment. But it was that level of control, and he just wouldn't speak to me. And I remember even cases where I'd sit and try and cry to get almost attention off him to start that conversation. But I would be hitting a blank wall with all of that. The first one is you hit a nerve with them. And the second one is that lack of communication skills. They don't know how to verbalize what they are feeling when you have hit that nerve for you to then have a healthy discussion with them at all. And again, I don't know whether any of you can relate to any of those to start off with. If you think back to when you had the silent treatment, was it something you think that you really hit a raw nerve with them? That it was something maybe you said, maybe it's something that has triggered in them those feelings so that then they just completely disregard you and won't speak to you for however many days that is. Because sometimes we're not just talking hours here. We are talking days, weeks even. I've spoken to clients before where they haven't actually spoken to their ex-partner for 2 or 3 weeks. And that is a massive form of emotional abuse then, because it can leave you feeling really agitated, really, really anxious, and you might try to communicate and you get absolutely nothing back. That is not a good place to be. That is not a healthy relationship. It's a highly toxic relationship then as well. What they can do as well is as they are shutting down, so basically, you've had an argument with them or you've had a discussion with them, you've triggered something in them, they don't want to carry on having that conversation with you. They're literally going to shut you down, because what they're going to do is start to project onto you all of those feelings. They're going to flip the blame onto you. So if you're having that argument, you've triggered something in them, they don't want to carry on speaking about it, so they're just literally going to project onto you, get the blame on you, and then not speak to you. And then you will have a period of that as well. So with my ex and more recently with my son, wow, Marie, yeah, it's really common. And we can be quite flippant as well about silent treatment and someone not speaking to you. And towards the end of this, it can be healthy to a point with the right parameters. But when you are in this kind of abusive relationship like that, it isn't healthy because of the way that it is done to you. So this kind of projection, so they will blame you and then they will shut down and then they will behave like the victim. They will behave like you have done something wrong to them. They're the victim. And we see this a lot with narcissists anyway, that they will kind of portray themselves as the victim. I was just reading something in my group about someone feeling really angry that it was almost like their ex has got away with it, that it's all right for them. And, that is a really, really common thought process that we will go through, because they will start acting like the victim, it's all your fault. And, they'll be saying to people that they're a great husband or a great wife, and I'm a great father and I'm a great mother, and you know the truth, and you want to go around and say, no, that isn't really the truth. And it's really, really unhealthy for you to focus on that. But in this scenario with the silent treatment, ultimately what they will do is they will act like the victim. So they'll be the victim. And that can be equally as frustrating for you then as well. Then they just won't speak to you. So they will go around, and you could just imagine what they say at work or to their friends and everything like this. Hi Debbie, I wish I could have recognised this at the time. Now years down the road, I can see it wasn't me. And absolutely, it's never about you. It is always about them. And that's really, really hard to recognise when you're in it. When you're in that eye of the storm, when you're in all of that, it's really, really hard for you to recognise that it isn't you. It's absolutely them. So Marie, if you shut you off completely right now, just knowing that you're there, showing that love that is available, and you then getting on with your life. Don't spend too much time focusing on it. And again, when towards the end of this, I'll talk a little bit about that self-love, that self-compassion as well. So why do they do it? Why does the narcissist, do you think, give you the silent treatment then? Well, because they know how it's going to affect you. And it's a lot about control. Evening, Lucy. So let's see. Hi, goodness. This is part of my card reading in the week. Wow. I realise I've attracted the narcissistic person most of my life. I'm such an emotional person too. And I've spent most of my life feeling low self-esteem and low confidence because of it. And yes, them acting like it's your fault. It's terrible. Absolutely right. It really is, Lucy. And do you know what? like I just said at the start of the video, knowledge is power here. You now know this. You know you're an emotional person, so you're potentially going to attract narcissistic types of people into your life. The biggest thing you can do is work on yourself and your boundaries, and I'll talk about that a little bit further on as well. So they will know how silent treatment is going to affect you, okay? The majority of people that attract narcissists into their life will be empaths. Not all of the time, but the majority of the time, you know, and I've done a video about narcissists and empaths. So if you want to kind of either scroll back on my Facebook page or go and look on my YouTube channel. It's pretty easy to go on my YouTube channel, actually, rather than scrolling those down. But you will find that on my YouTube channel. So I won't go into loads of detail about the empath and the narcissist. But basically, as an empath, we automatically want to make things all right. We want to make things better with a rescuer, with a caretaker in this type of relationship. But what happens with the narcissist is they will use silent treatment as a way of punishing you, as that level of control. And it's a really insidious level of control here. It's something so simple of not speaking to you, but for you being in it, it is horrible, and it makes you feel anxious. It makes you feel on edge. It makes you feel like the phrase that we use a lot, that you are walking on eggshells. You're trying to make it all right as well. And there's a real difference in you needing a break as opposed to control of this situation as well. And, you know, I just think I can so remember all of these times where we wouldn't be speaking, and I'd be really wanting to make it all right as well. Hi Donna, evening to you. Hi, how do I make sure I don't attract another narcissist? So a lot of that is looking at your own values and your own boundaries again as well. If ever you want to have a free discovery call with me, Donna, just pop me a message and I can send you my discovery call application, and we can have a chat, a free discovery call of how I can help you. And what I do in that scenario is really delve deep. So look at why you did all of this in the first place. Have you healed coming out of this? Because ultimately what we want to do, and this isn't just for relationships, it's friendships, work colleagues, maybe you have family members, anything like that. And it's resetting your boundaries. So many people will look at others in this scenario, you know, the narcissist behavior. But what I do is I really look from the inside out here. It's all about rebuilding you, looking at inner work for you, so you know all of those boundaries as well. So also the narcissists, so we're up to number 5, they like feeling that power. They like the power of that control over you, you know, and particularly in overt narcissists as well. You know, those typical narcissists that you would think they walk into a room, a bit like a peacock, you know, full of confidence. They might have all the flash car, you know, all of these kind of traits that really are in line with what we call an overt narcissist. So, you know, almost like the typical person you would imagine to be a narcissist, but they love feeling that power. And this is, and Debbie, you hit on this as well. You mustn't take it personally. Them giving you the silent treatment, you cannot take that personally, because it is not about you. And I've written this on my piece of paper. I've written this in capitals, nothing to do with you. So hear my words there. If you are still in a relationship with a narcissist, or you've come out of one and you're questioning why did they do this and why that, and again, you're giving the power to the narcissist, nothing to do with you. Their behaviour and how they treat you isn't because you have behaved in a certain way towards them. It's nothing to do with you. So it is not your fault. And it's really key for you to know all of that. And we need for you to learn to process your feelings and your emotions. You know, because very often we're focusing on the behaviour of the narcissist, which is important to get to understand, because then it gives you a level of knowledge. But again, if you don't do anything with it, if you then don't process your feelings, if you don't process your emotions to move forward, then you're going to stay stuck. And I see this years down the line with people. They're still angry, they're still stuck, they're still sad, they're still depressed. You know, and don't get me wrong, I probably had a good 2 years like that myself, but who was that serving me staying like that? Nobody. Certainly not me and not my children, you know, and ultimately you've got to want to make a change. I've done a lot of studying and research about something called learned helplessness, which is a psychological phenomenon that when you're in this situation, it almost becomes a learned behaviour for you to carry on feeling helpless. Now, again, I'm not negating how anybody feels in a narcissistic relationship or when you have come out of it. But what happens is, as time progresses, this isn't normally in the immediate aftermath, as time progresses, it becomes a habit of how we are feeling. So we have this learned helplessness. So we almost don't see that there's a way out. It's almost like this is it now, this is our habit, this is how we feel. And we've forgotten that actually, if we've learned to be helpless in this scenario, the beauty of that is we can learn to be optimistic. We can learn to be happy again. We can learn to thrive and flourish again. And that's very key in how I coach. That yes, I get and understand where you are feeling, not only on a personal level, but on a professional level. But I don't want you to stay there, and it can be quite difficult shifting people out of that because it's a habit. You've forgotten how to laugh. I often ask my clients, when did you last have a belly laugh? And it's astounding where people look at me and they say, I don't know, I can't remember. You deserve to live a happy life, and none of this is your fault. You genuinely deserve to move forward and create a life where, you feel happy again, you feel excited again, you start to have some fun again. But very often we forget what it's like to feel like that. So Debbie, that learning to change my habits was a huge eye-opener for me. Absolutely, because we've almost got a habit of feeling low, of feeling sad, of feeling angry. And that in itself is our security, because we know what it's like to feel that, because it's been so insidious for so long because of the emotional abuse. And it's almost scary to think, I'm going to be happy again? I can't imagine that. And I certainly know that. I remember thinking, I can't imagine ever living a life again. I just thought I was existing, but it's really, really key to understand all of that as well. So the last two are kind of more based around you, of what you can do in this scenario, whether you were in the relationship with the narcissist or you've come out and potentially with dealing with narcissists again, hopefully not in another relationship. But if you meet anybody in everyday life, which we do, up to sort of 5% of the population have narcissistic personality disorder. So, we are going to come across these people, particularly if you're an empath. So number 6 is, you need to, at some stage, communicate to them how you feel. Now, I'm not saying you need to shout and rage at them about how you feel and how dare you give me the silent treatment or anything else like that, because you behaving like that is, again, giving them the power. What we want to do in this scenario is I want you to communicate to them how it felt whilst they were giving you the silent treatment. And it's really good for you to tell them how their behaviour has made you feel. I'm not saying they're going to apologise. I'm not saying that they are going to change, because a narcissist won't. But by nature of you doing that, it stops it from being so bottled up inside of you. You need to learn how to vocalise and communicate the fact that the silent treatment and their behaviour, how it made you feel. So you don't necessarily need to bang on about their behaviour with the silent treatment, and you shouldn't have done this, why didn't you listen to me with that, and why didn't you do this, and da-da-da-da-da. Because all you're going to do with that is you're going to start a conflict, and it will get even more toxic. But you need to communicate how it made you feel. So it would be something like, you've just, maybe it's, you've had an argument about something, and you're not going to dwell on the argument itself, but you're going to say, when you give me the silent treatment, it really makes me feel anxious. It really makes me feel like I'm walking on eggshells. It makes me feel. So you are owning your feelings. Now, whether he or she chooses to argue with you on that, then they can't argue with you about your feelings. You own your feelings. You know what it felt like. So ultimately, you need to communicate that to them as well. And then number 7, which I briefly mentioned in the video, is you need to set clear boundaries. So if you're in a relationship with a narcissist right now, you need to have clear boundaries over this. And again, if you're out of one, and you can recognize all of this, you need those boundaries. It's really, really important. You need to know what your expectations are in a relationship. Yes, you can shut down to the process. And this is really, really key, because ultimately there's a real difference between someone giving you the silent treatment as a form of abuse as well. Evening, Lucy. Thank you, Caroline. This is fantastic. Let's have a read. It's Fate, I've just come across your live video. The boundary conditions are great. Yes, help me. I'm definitely the empath, and I thought it was just men and my failed relationships, but it's women too. Absolutely. I realise it's them, not me. Fantastic. Great realisation. I want to change. I want good, positive people around me. But I find that I have over the years, because I'm an introvert, I find it easy to distance myself from people, as nobody is ever kind or happy for me. I'm scared of getting close because of the emotional abuse that I've suffered over the years, and I'm improving, but it's so hard. Wow. Do you know what? There's so many positive things there as well, Lucy. And I think sometimes we tend to focus on what we should be, and I'm this and I'm that, and I wish I was that and that. You've got some great, great foundations there. Firstly, are you in my group? Are you in my divorce and breakup support after narcissistic abuse? If you're not, just comment below, and when I've finished, I will send you the link for you to join. That in itself, you're going to have a massive community of other women. We've got nearly 3,000. We've got over 3,000 women in there now as well. It's a brilliant community. Now, I recognise, obviously, women can be narcissists as well, and I do coach men, but the group I keep private for women only. I know women like to communicate and chit chat and everything else, and it's a great support network as well. So if you're not in that, please just comment, and I will send you the link for that as well. Also, with all of that you want to improve, you want to know how to set the boundaries in that. A lot of that is about you. So I can see, nobody's getting close to me, nobody's happy for me. If I was coaching you, I would get it to be for you, Lucy, that it's not about anybody else. It's about you being happy with you. Yes, of course, it's lovely when other people are happy with you. But what I would do if I was coaching you, Lucy, was I would be looking at how we can build you up, how you can start to have self-love, self-compassion. And the surprising thing that will happen in that scenario, Lucy, is as you are growing, as you are recognising all of this and becoming, more positive, you will attract different people into your life. You'll attract the people into your life that you are mentioning you are currently lacking. So whilst you're saying people aren't happy for you, it's really, really interesting that that's probably because you're not happy with you. And if we start to build that up, you're going to attract those type of people in your life. And again, Lucy, as I mentioned to Donna earlier, if you ever want to have a free discovery call with me to talk about maybe how I can help you on a one-to-one basis as well, then again, just pop me a message and I can send you my discovery call application, and we can hop on the phone and have a chat about that as well. But I think ultimately, Lucy, you've recognised some amazing things there, so you should be really, really proud of yourself. But then what we want to do is we really want to look from within. It's not about anybody else. We need to work on you first and foremost as well. And once you start to feel that self-love and self-compassion, whether anyone's happy for you or not, you'll be okay, because you're okay, but you'll find you'll be attracting the right kind of people into your life as well. And Debbie's saying, I can't agree with Caroline more. The more I love and feel positive about myself, the more I'm surrounded by people who support, love, and are happy for me. Absolutely. Like attracts like. So if you're feeling low, you're feeling down, they're the sort of people you're going to attract into your life as well. And it can be hard to shift. I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight. It's not an overnight event. It is a process. There are things that we can do, obviously, for all of that as well. So with regards to the silent treatment in relationships, you've got to define what the silent treatment with the form of abuse is, because it's that level of control. With also, you might have an argument, because some of you might be sat there thinking, well, sometimes I don't want to talk about it and I shut down and I don't speak to my partner because you're processing it. There's a real difference with that. I recognise if you're in an argument, and I've been there sometimes, I'm remarried now. If my husband and I sometimes are having an argument and it's getting a little bit too much, I shut down. I don't want to carry on the conversation. I want to process it and everything else. But I'm not doing it because I want to then have that level of control. I don't do it for weeks on end or days on end or anything. It's literally a moment where I can go away, I can process it, and then I can come back and communicate and have a healthy conversation with my partner about it as well. And that's the difference. The difference with, say, you or myself shutting down and just processing it, I'm not using it as a form of control. And that's what the difference is between a narcissist. They will do it because it's a form of control. They will see what it is doing to you, and I'm sure lots of you have been there when that's the case. I remember one occasion where I'd had an argument with my ex-husband, and I actually remember sitting in the middle of my lounge floor, crying, literally sobbing, wanting him to start talking to me. And I was sobbing and probably being incoherent about whatever it was I was saying, because I wanted a reaction. I almost wanted him to say something so we could start a conversation again to make it all right again. And I would be trying one thing. So obviously I'd be trying to talk to start with, wasn't getting anywhere. And I remember, I can picture it right now. It was in the house my house that got repossessed actually. And I remember sitting on the middle of my lounge floor crying. And I got nothing, no emotion, no empathy, the silent treatment, that level of control as well. So, it is incredibly difficult. And that's the level of abuse. That's the level of control. That would be different if you had just shut down because you want to process it and then go back and have the conversation, because you're not doing it for a level of control. As well. So Lucy, thank you. I definitely love myself, but I find when I build myself up, I'm knocked down again. Okay, so I get you love yourself, but then that's working on why are you getting knocked down? There's something deep rooted in you that is allowing you to keep getting knocked down. And sometimes that can be almost like self-sabotage, because if you start to say be successful, or you start to love yourself, and other people that are trying to knock you down, it's almost like you don't think you deserve for them to be happy for you to be successful, or for you to be loved. And you're allowing them to knock you back down again. And there's a real difference in that, if I was working with you, say, Lucy, it would be like, again, other people, if they're trying to knock you down and you're, what we would do is not allow that to happen, because it's about them again, same as a narcissist in some respects. And I found this, I started a business when I split up from my ex-husband, because I'd literally lost everything. So I started a business in end of October 2013, which literally skyrocketed. And my best friend at the time, who you'd think would be pleased for me, and I've spoken about this and I mentioned this in the book, in my book as well, and you'd think she'd be really pleased for me. But actually, she was more pleased for me when my life wasn't very good, because then it would make her feel better about her life. It gave her a secondary gain because she thought she was helping me, and that made her feel good. But the moment my life started to take off, and all of a sudden, my business within sort of 18 months was turning over £1 million worth of products, and I literally went boom with everything as well. What I realised was that actually, and for a split moment, I almost stopped myself, I have to say as well, Lucy, but then I realised, who was I living my life for? Was I living my life to make everybody else happy? Or was I going to be living my life for myself and my children? And it was a real light bulb moment for me, actually, Lucy, in that scenario, a massive light bulb moment, because it made me realise that actually I'd created this habit in my life as an empath, that my role had become to make everybody else feel better about their life. And that in itself made me feel good, because I felt good that I was actually making them feel good about their life by my rubbish life. So I know that sounds really odd, doesn't it? But then to make that jump of, well, okay, my rubbish life makes them feel good. What if my life was good? How are they going to react? And actually, she didn't react well. She's no longer a friend of mine because she's not a true friend. So it makes you recognise who your true friends are in this scenario as well. And Lucy, what I would say is there's a lot of self-sabotage there, and there's a lot of who are you surrounding yourself with as well. And I would say, let's do a friend check here. Let's do who are you allowing to knock you down here? Because there are choices to be made here as well. So I hope that kind of explained this evening a little bit about the silent treatment. So I'll just briefly run through the 7 again. So the first one was they hit a nerve. So you've hit a nerve with them. And then obviously number 2 is that lack of communication skills. Number 3 is they project onto you as they shut down because they're going to blame you. They are the victim now, and it's all your fault as well. Number 4 is they do it because they know how it affects you. And again, if you're an empath, it will be so difficult, and they will have that level of control over you as well. It's like a form of punishment to you. They like the power. They like that power over you, to know that if they don't speak to you, that's the level of power that they have, because they know you're going to really struggle with all of that, really struggle. 6 is you need to communicate with them about how you feel at some stage, because it's really good for you to do that. This isn't about them in that scenario. It's about how you feel. You don't have to rehash the argument, but it's really good for you to communicate how you felt. You know, when you did that, this made me feel like that, because ultimately that's your feeling. You own that. You felt that as well. So, please, Lucy, drop me a message anytime. Please do. And then number 7 is setting boundaries. Boundaries are absolutely key in your life. You know, whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, you need to have clear boundaries. That's not because you are being arrogant. It's not because you want to shut everybody out. You need to have your own personal boundaries. And if people are starting to cross them, then you need to have the strength in yourself to turn away from that or voice your concern with all of that. And that's where the inner work comes in, you know, because as an empath, certainly for me, you know, when I was going through or in my marriage, they become very, very blurred. You allow things to happen far more when you're an empath, because those boundaries, you think, well, you know, this happened, that happened, or maybe he was like this or she was like that. And you start to make excuses and the boundaries become very blurred, and all of a sudden you don't have any boundaries. So you need to have really, really clear boundaries. But a lot of it is about you, you know, very much about you as opposed to everybody else. You know, and I want to really, really stress that, because so many times we look at the behaviour of everybody else, you know, why are they this? And Lucy, you absolutely highlighted it with one of your comments, and, you know, a couple of others did as well. It isn't. It's all the work from within as well. And that could be years of you being like this, but we can change and we can create some new habits. And being an empath is a gift. You know, I absolutely think it is, but you have to have the boundaries. Otherwise, you're going to be drained, and you're going to spend the rest of your life making everybody else happy, and you're going to be desperately unhappy. And that's not the way to live your life. So I hope you've all had a great live. You know, if you're not in my group, please just comment. If you want to share this with anybody who you think it's going to be of benefit, I'd be so grateful. But remember, this is a public page, so obviously anyone commenting will be able to see that as well. Anytime anyone wants to message me, have a discovery call, please do. I offer free discovery calls to see how I can help you on a one-to-one basis. And I do payment plans for that as well. So have a fantastic week. I'm going to go and have a soak in a bubble bath now and ease my tired muscles from all of my dancing. But, you know, please know that I am there to help you. I've got my free community. I understand sometimes people don't want one-to-one coaching because of money. Completely get that. That's why I've created the free community as well, so that you can be in that, you can feel supported. And the biggest thing for me is that you don't feel alone. You know, I felt desperately alone going through what I was going through at the time. And just to know others are going through it as well, even though it's not your story and you own those feelings, can make such a big difference as well. So have a brilliant week, everybody. And I will pop on through the week, do some little videos and that as well. But if there's anything in particular you want on a Sunday night live as well, just let me know, and I will plan it into my schedule as well. So take care, everybody. Have a fab week.